two. Red lights on. I'm David Brownstein. Welcome to the 2020 Music Industry Evolution Summit. I'm here with Tess Taylor today. Welcome, Tess.
Welcome to you, and thank you, David.
Thank you. Great to have you here. I'm real glad we could work this out. For those who don't know Tess, I'm going to read a little bit of her bio. Tess Taylor is president of the National Association of Record Industry Professionals, better known as NARIP, since 1998, which promotes career advancement, education, and goodwill in the record industry and related music fields. She is the creator of NARIP's Music Supervisor Pitch Sessions, which have yielded over 2,000 music placements for participants and sold out in Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco, Atlanta, Miami, Berlin, Paris, and London. She is also creator of NARIP's Sync Agent Pitch Sessions, which have secured 22 sync rep and or music publishing deals for NARIP members since 2018, including one for me, actually, that's true. One of the nation's leading authorities on careers in recorded music, Ms. Taylor has been called the job whisperer and has connected countless people to jobs opportunities throughout her work in the US and abroad, cultivated business and creative opportunities, collaborations for 3 decades, helped launch hundreds of projects and companies. Sorry that was so long, but welcome, Tess Taylor.
Well, thank you. And a minor correction, young David. It is now 24 deals, sync agent and music publishing deals, because we just had 2 more signed last week.
Amazing.
So I need to update that. And congratulations to you on your sync representation deal too.
Yeah, thank you. I'm really excited about that. And part of why I really wanted to bring you in is you're doing something really interesting and really unique. Not just that, hey, like I met someone who sang one of my songs, but the way you do it is really unique and no one else is doing this. So I really wanted to present you as a resource to the community. So thank
you.
Glad we could work this. Before we get into the businessy side of things, I just want to talk about musically, what are the first musical things that got you on your journey in the music business as a fan?
I was blown away by a young pianist that I met in Vienna, and it's actually his birthday yesterday, Stefan Mendel, who was the son of my mother's best friend, who we visited when I went to Austria for one of the first times. And this guy gave me a private concert and played Beethoven concerto, some Bach French suites, and some music. I was sitting right next to this huge grand piano in this gorgeous, huge home in one of the more posh areas of Vienna, while this guy, he was about my age, and I was 13 or 14 at the time, gave me this private concert. And the more he played, the more I was just agog. And actually, I really developed a crush on him as a result. But he was fantastically talented, and he's a gifted concert pianist to this day. But that was just enormously powerful. And I was already a pianist myself. But I was hugely inspired. And that was just sort of a person-to-person, living room concert, you might say. And wow. I came back and really devoted myself much more deliberately to music after that, and have come to really enjoy pop culture as well. David Bowie just really blew me away when I went to my first concert, Serious Moonlight concert. This would have been back in the 80s, and I had no idea that you could be so moved or inspired by something like that. It just changed me. And I think that concert probably is why I'm in the music business today. So, but there's great music everywhere, but those were some of the earliest experiences I remember that really turned me on to music.
Wow, that's great. That's great. So, I've never really heard your musical influences because there's so much you're always working with and talking about the business side and the networking side. So I'm thank you for sharing that. That's great. That's great. So as we're talking about here's in this summit, I'm looking to help the community of listeners and participants to how is the music changing? How is the music business changing? How are we networking with each other? How are we finding what new opportunities are happening? How are we connecting? What's the business going to look like, and what are the structures that the professionals are putting into place? And so I really wanted to get your take on some of the things that you're seeing from the people in your community, the people you're working with, the speakers? What are some of the things uh, that you're seeing coming alive and starting to happen in the now?
Well, there's a lot happening. We're in the middle of, the COVID-19 right now. Should people be viewing this years in the future? We are
Yeah.
looking at a lot of the aftermath of a lot of protests from the George Floyd murder, I guess you should say. And there's a lot of social unrest. There's a lot of change happening right now. And the way that this is affecting the music business, COVID-19 in particular, is the closing of live music venues for long periods of time is going to cause a lot of small club owners to go out of business, which is happening and has already happening. And this sort of history repeats itself. This has happened before in our industry. So what that means is that the landscape is ripe for takeover of larger companies like um, Live Nation and the other one,
AIG, yes.
AEG, correct.
AEG, yes, yes.
AEG to move in and become even bigger. So that is something of a concern because it means they're going to have more of a hold on venues and be able to dictate prices. So that's not a particularly good thing unless you're Live Nation and or AEG. But
But
I
even
think,
those guys are sort of on hold for at least
yeah,
6 to
I mean
12
they're
months, probably.
they're going to be struggling too, but they'll be able to withstand the pandemic much more so, much better than the smaller guys who are being put out of business even as we speak.
Hmm.
So what
Hmm.
that means is smaller venues are going to be shut down and or severely challenged. So, but that to me represents an opportunity for more in-home concerts, living room concerts. We've seen a lot of virtual concerts, which I think is interesting, but that person-to-person, performance, communication, sharing of art, music, live music, that is so powerful and that won't change. So what I'm hoping is that we're going to see a sort of new renaissance of people performing in their homes and in small venues that have not been ravaged by COVID-19. And I just want people to go out and support those venues as much as they can once things open up, which they're starting to a little bit. I mean, we've just seen now in California, unfortunately, sort of a spike in the COVID numbers. So the
So
venues.
let me ask you, Tess, have you seen any online performers in the last few months that have just excited you or just thought this is the future or this is something that's really working? Like,
I haven't seen any, which is not to say that they aren't out there and they or exist. I'm I haven't been looking at virtual concerts myself. I'm more of a if I do anything at all, it will be live music. Now I
hmm
certainly support people, and I have I donate and I make sure that I'm enabling that as much as I can. Um, and so you've sort of caught me here
okay,
because
that's fine. No, you're right. I mean,
I'm
it's
saying
definitely where
one
it's
thing and
going.
doing another. Um, but that is, I think, because I personally prefer the in-person experience, the live experience. And I am actually using this time now where there's less social interaction and less activity outside the home or office to just catch up on lots and lots of things and projects that have been lying fallow and not getting done to my satisfaction. So
So you in your NARIP sessions, you've often had, when I was at the sessions in LA, you were streaming, you had people all around the country, people in New York, people in Atlanta. How is the online community you've built, how's that been working? How do you see that changing?
well, it's been working great for us because we had an online component to our events before, even long before COVID. And so our programming hasn't changed or stopped at all. If anything, we're doing more. I still do prefer the person to person is, there's no substitute for meeting somebody in person. Why? I mean, I like to joke that they can't hang up on you when you're standing in front of them, or certainly not as easily, right? So you can
Right.
make an impression with somebody, and the way that you present yourself, the way that you put yourself together, you shake hands, you say hello, you can exchange words, there's chatter. It's easier to do that in person than it is virtually, although virtually is certainly better than nothing. So our events have been unaffected. We're doing as many as ever, if not more. Though I do look forward to the day when we return to having in-person events like the brunches that you've attended, David.
Yeah, 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 they're
There's
great.
no substitute for those. The music business networking brunches. Did you come to the last one that we had in January, February?
No, I
Um,
think I was the NAMM show at that moment. Yeah.
okay, so but virtual concerts are certainly have proliferated and grown in
Hmm.
popularity, and I'm all for that. I am.
Well, so here's one of the also reasons I wanted to have you speak to us today was because what you're doing with pitch, pitch, pitch sync reps. Like
Mhm.
this was something I didn't even understand until I showed up to one of your events. And one of the things we've been talking about a lot in this summit is ways to get music to film and television. And there's a lot of discussion about that. And you're doing these sync agent events as a way to connect people with people who are sync agents. But explain what that is,
Okay,
please.
well, I'll back up just a little bit. We
Great.
started our music supervisor pitch sessions in 2011. So that's been going on now for almost 10 years, and they've been wildly successful. And at each one of these pitch sessions, I ask a handful of the same questions to each supervisor. How can my members here better market their music and their services to you, Mr. or Mrs. Music Supervisor? And one of the responses that I got almost 100% of the time was get representation. So finally I thought, well, I need to get some of these representatives. Let me get these sync agents. Why do supervisors rely so heavily on sync agents? Because dealing with 10 independent artists is much more difficult than dealing with one well-regarded professional sync agent. So I identified the very best sync agents, and then I invited them to attend these events. And the difference between having a music supervisor and a sync agent working with these guys is it's great to go direct. You should be developing and cultivating relationships across the board with the buyers themselves, which is what I call the music supervisors and others like them who actually license the music and will write you a check. Those are the buyers. And with the representatives who will pitch your music to the buyers and the music supervisors in particular. Why is it important to understand what a sync agent is, and why is it more important to have one helping you? It's because the sync agents make their living from cultivating those relationships with the music supervisors. And in your case, David, I think you signed with Cassie Lord, who's been in the music business all her life, and who many of the top executives at studios are like her, almost like her kids, right? She has such deep, wide relationships with these people. It's easy for them to pick up the phone. They know that she will give them exactly what they need and want if she has it, and if she doesn't, she will find it. And they also know that when they get something from Cassie Lord, it will be ready to license. She's not sending them anything without the rights buttoned down. And that is a very, very important point that escapes a lot of people who are new to sync licensing or don't have the degree of understanding that the professionals have.
Right. So just to underline something you said there is that partly if what I realized is if I have a relationship with a music supervisor and I give them I say, here's a few of my songs, and they go, that's great, but that's not what I'm working on right now. I'm just working on what I'm working on, and I want this, 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 and this. And so leverage wise, a sync agent has relationships with the music supervisors over time, and they're out there, they take a percentage of the licensing fee, but they're out there selling. They know where the buyers are. They know who's looking for what. They know what network's looking for what kind of music, rather than me having to call all my supervisor friends and go, do you have anything that needs me yet?
Right. Well, it's wise for someone like you, as I said, to cultivate relationships with both of those entities, with music supervisors and with agents. And now you have an agent. She knows who you are and what you do. So, and I remember quite distinctly at our pitch session with Cassie Lord in December, about 6 months ago, that she said, you know, it's good if you give me a hook, if you give me, I need to know I need to have a story. I need to know who you are or what you do, a reference point in order to remember you and then pick up the phone and call you. And that reference point can be anything like you do female empowerment, or you're an electronica specialist, or you do clean hip hop. She went crazy over a guy who did a cover of Jingle Bells, an Afro beats version of Jingle Bells in that pitch session. And that really excited her. And I know that she signed a couple of people from that session, including you, David, which is terrific. So a big part of success in life is understanding what the other guy wants and needs and what his problems may be. So this is the essence of How to Win Friends and Influence People, that great book by Dale Carnegie, which I wish I had read at the age of 5, but thankfully I read it eventually, and I look back to it from time to time. And it just reminds me of how important it is to understand what other people's challenges are. And when you can help them solve their problem, then you are also solving your problem, and you're getting further, faster, and you're making better business. So the artist or the person or the creator who has music to pitch, it's not just about pitching it wildly and blindly to everybody who you can get to. It's about understanding what they need, when they need it, and how they need it. And when you put yourself into somebody's shoes, like the average buyer or even the average sync agent, who, by the way, sync agents have become so valuable. They're as hard, if not harder, to reach than music supervisors, because there's so much music out there. They have so much to choose from. They can afford to be really, really picky, and they should be. Because a lot of people are making music, but not all of it is, say, up to a good production standard. And that's really, really important when you're getting something on air. It has to be broadcast quality. So the sync agents are, they have the pick of the litter. It's hard to get to them as well. But when you understand what the challenge is, that I don't just need music, I need the right music, and I need it now. That's
right. So they're developing a library, but they have the buyers. They know what the projects are, and yeah, that's great. Well, so let me just say one other thing about how your sessions have gone. And again, I'm not just doing this to go, everyone should go to Tess's things, but there's something unique that you do that I wanted to highlight. So I've been to pitch sessions where I play somebody a piece of music, they listen to a minute, they give me 15 minutes of feedback and say goodbye. What Tess has done in these events is we listen to 3 songs, and then she really gets the panelist to respond. Is this right for you? If not, tell me why. What should this person be doing next? What would it be right for? You become this advocate in front of the room, which, first of all, it feels good to have an advocate in front of the room, but also I and the participants learn so much about like how to shape it rather than just pass next. We get you pull good feedback out of them that just expands our understanding of the whole situation.
Well, it's part of my lifelong curiosity. How do things work as they do, and why? When you understand that, then you're better equipped to deal with it. And I'm glad that you point that out, David. It's something that comes very naturally to me, because I want the session to be as useful to the guest speaker as it is for you. I don't want people to go away feeling like they've wasted their time or their money or their effort to do this. And for people who are paying attention, even to other folks' pitches, not just the response and the feedback to their pitch, the music that they pitch, you learn a lot. You understand the need for energy in music. I make, especially those guest speakers who are more fluent in the language of production and of music itself, and not all of them are. Some of them can just describe what they want, but they don't have the technical terms. But where we have the ability to get technical, as in the production value is not so good, you need to take out the the screeching vocalist? Or wouldn't it be great if you didn't repeat this loop or this chorus, or the key change doesn't feel right, or get to the hook faster? All of these elements, you learn, for one thing, that what makes a song a hit on the radio is not necessarily what will make it right for placement. You understand what people want and need. And when you have that information, as you said, David, and this is so critical, you can take the feedback and you can reshape the song. Sometimes it's as simple as remixing it or taking out one element. And when you have that information, why wouldn't you do that? You've suddenly made your song twice, if not 10 times more licensable. And that's super, super valuable. And at the very bottom of all of this, David, is a simple principle. When you succeed, I succeed. When you do better, I do better. NARP does better, we all do better. And one opportunity for you, David, does not mean one less opportunity for everybody else. I really want to see people do better. And this is part of, you know, you asked about what the opportunities are in the future for artists and in general. And I think people have to ask themselves, why am I here? What am I doing? What do I want? And where am I going? These are simple but deep philosophical questions that people have been asking themselves since the dawn of time, or should be asking themselves. And we get so caught up in this rush of doing more, being more, going more places, hanging out with more people, pitch, 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 you know, all this stuff, all of this activity, this frenzied activity. If you just sort of dial it back and ask yourself, what am I doing? What am I trying to accomplish? If you simplify and slow down, you're going to do better. First of all, people are so stressed out now. There's a lot of stress in the music business. There's a lot of stress in the world. I was just reading an op-ed from the LA Times yesterday about the poverty is skyrocketing because the housing costs in Los Angeles are so enormous and they're out of step with wages. There aren't any good new, there aren't enough high wage or medium wage jobs being created, while at the same time housing costs are rising here in Los Angeles. So there's a lot of stress, and you add to that COVID-19 and the pandemic, you add to that the social unrest and the dissatisfaction element, and people, you know, trying to make changes. There's stress.
So how does music play in to that?
Well, you have to ask yourself what you're doing and why you're doing it. And I think this helps to focus your energies and not be so distracted, depressed, and negative. So it goes back to, and you know, we're getting a little bit philosophical here, but there are practical components to what I'm saying as well. Sure. Like the idea of a rising tide raises all ships. So I think of what I'm doing in life as, I want to be useful to other people. I want to be useful. I think of that as my mission, and of NARP's mission. And if we're not useful, then what are we doing? We're not, you know, that's the idea. So when you think of art and why you're making art, you have to ask yourself, why are you doing this? Are you doing this for attention? Are you doing this to make money? Are you doing this to share what's in your heart, to share your story? Are you doing it to communicate with people? There's lots of reasons to make art, and not all reasons are created equal, but there's no dishonor in wanting to make a living from it. There's no dishonor in wanting attention. A lot of people make music because they want attention. They want to be on a stage. Maybe they have, I don't know, maybe they don't feel like they got enough attention growing up or whatever. And that's fine. I'm not here to judge. But if you look deep into your heart as to why you're making music, I think this is something that you have to understand, because that motivation has to stay with you for a long time, sometimes before you start to be able to earn a living with it, if that is even your goal. And I expect, or I assume, that the people who will be watching this series of yours, David, are either professionals or who want to be professionals, who want to be able to sustain themselves and support themselves through making music. Am I right?
Yeah. Well, I think you're highlighting a few things. The one is that people, to put up with all the challenges, people have to have, first of all, tenacity, but second of all, a feeling of mission, in a way. Yes. Of that music's important to us as creators to live the life that we want. And also there's a healing element of music out in the world and out in the community, right? So it's, yes, we want to make a living, but also there's a bigger calling to go through the ongoing challenges of making music and attempting to place it
Right.
and sell it, right?
Right. And it's about communication, and this is where the live performance makes such a difference. It's reaching people, reaching their hearts and minds, which is easier said than done. Just because you play a song doesn't mean people are going to pay attention to you. And the apart from that, the commercial value of art is its ability to attract a crowd. So if you can't get one person to listen to your music, then the commercial value at that moment is not very high at all, because if you can't even get someone to listen to it, you're certainly not going to be able to sell it. So the
Mm-hmm.
commercial value of art, and that's distinct from the aesthetic or the artistic value of art, because those are different things. Just because something is aesthetically beautiful and gorgeous doesn't mean it's necessarily going to be commercially viable, and vice versa. And what we hope is, I think, is that that a piece of art, whether it's a painting or a song, will be both aesthetically beautiful and pleasing and commercially viable as well. So, but you have to be thinking in terms of your audience, which is something that not enough people give great enough
Mm-hmm.
consideration to. And I will tell you what I find so fascinating, David, is I've lectured a lot in my career, and I really, really enjoy it. And probably, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, I thought to myself, I should take little surveys and get some feedback, and see what people think. Even though I would get invited back to the same places, and I knew, I just knew from the feedback, the live feedback that I did get, and the fact that I was being invited back, that I'm doing all right. People like
Yeah,
my
yeah,
lectures.
yeah.
But then I started doing little feedback forms, and I was shocked. I will tell you, I was blown away at what I learned from these survey results, because the things that I thought were really on point, people didn't seem to care about. And then the stuff that I thought was just throwaway little remarks that I would make, but not go into too deeply, because I thought it might be perceived as condescending or too basic. People wanted more of that. They wanted hope, like, oh my God, the stuff that I thought was too basic to even mention because
Yeah.
it's understood.
Well, so
No,
so what were some of those things that you were surprised by that people were noticing that that encouraged them, that inspired them to go, this is what's really speaking to me. This is what's mattering to me.
I will get to that in a minute.
Okay, great.
But
Yeah.
the point that I wanted to make with respect to music is, I don't think that enough people who are making music solicit or get that feedback from their fans. So when you've made an album or an EP, David, or even if you dust off a few songs that you have in your drawer that you haven't been out and about, what would stop you from having a group of people, or just some friends, listen to your 5 or 6 songs and tell you which ones they like the best?
Mm-hmm,
And what
mm-hmm.
would stop you from uh, being at a live show and asking your fans from the stage, hey, I'm trying to pick the next single for my EP. Which one of these do you like the best?
Right,
And
right.
chances are you would be surprised by their answer. It wouldn't be the song that you pick yourself. And that's what I think is so eye-opening about this, is the feedback that we can get from people is just stunning. And you yourself have given me feedback in the past, David, that just really made me go, wow, I never thought of that. That's what a good objective uh, uh, you know, good objective feedback can do for you. So some of the things that sort of stunned me were, people wanted to know more detail about, marketing plans. And I can't give you the
Yeah,
specifics,
yeah, that's, yeah.
but I've actually, I think, adopted a question from a survey that came from you, David, which is, in what areas of your music business career would you like to create better results? And I
Oh,
thought that
yeah.
was a very nice way to phrase it, like, not where would you like to improve because you're a dismal failure, but in what areas of your career, music business career, would you like to create better results? And that question that brought forth a whole bunch of information where people just would comment and say, I'd really like to hear more about this, Tess. You touched on this, but I'd really like you to go more in depth. So that is what helped me to shape and create and really improve my lectures to the point where, I mean, I'm invited back to lecture just about everywhere I go, which I'm happy to say. And I take that very seriously because I don't really want to ever phone it in and make people feel like, there's Tess, you know, another stupid lecture. No, I really, you know, I care. I want people to be able to elevate themselves. And that comes back to mission, which is to be useful to people. Why? Well, here's why, David. I don't want the world to be a cesspool. I don't want to live among people who are unhappy, poor, scraping, dismal, depressed, cynical.
Right.
I want to enable people to do the things that they want to do. And I want to try to make the world a better place in my own small way. It is very small, but it's, you know, it's something. And so I do that where I am, where I have influence, the people who I interact with every day and the people who will call me or who will join NARUP, who will get involved here and start coming to our events. I want to elevate people, because when you're doing better, David, not only am I doing better, but when people have meaningful work, they enjoy what they're doing, they're making a living, they're helping, or they're self-actualizing, you might say. These people are not going out and beating up other people. They don't go home and kick the dog and beat their wife. They're not out raping and pillaging. They're not protesting. They're not, you know, they're
Right.
not.
They're making music and making a difference and changing the
Yeah,
vibrations.
they're, you know, they're fulfilled. And people who are creatively and financially and emotionally fulfilled are not out causing all this chaos in the world. And those are people who can help other people elevate themselves. And this isn't just lip service. I mean, I do quite a lot in my community, not just with NARUP. I believe in this because, you know, every day I have a little ritual. After I walk the dog in the morning, I make my very, very fine cup of coffee and I sit quietly and I think about what it is I'm doing. And I start with this gratitude, like, thank you, God. I have a roof over my head. I have this fabulous cup of coffee. I have food in my belly. I have no debt. I'm, you know, things are good. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for my parents and these opportunities and for my, you know, you could just go on and on. And I'm so grateful, because what I found is that people have a very strong negativity bias. And I think it's linked to our survival. When anything new that comes into our environment is potentially perceived as a threat. So we have to, you know, look at it from that sort of, could this be a threat? You know, that engenders, I think, a natural sort of negativity bias, which you have to be aware of and correct against. And I myself am in recovery, David, for cynicism. And very much like addictions as I understand them, cynicism can creep back very, very quickly. I mean, when you look at what's going on in the world, it's easy to be cynical about all the horrible things that are happening. Right. But maybe it takes a little bit more effort, but not much. When you train yourself, there's very good things happening too. There's so much creative freedom now, and there are so many opportunities for art and for artists who are willing to take risks. So we can talk a little bit more about that. But
well, I mean, this is why one of the reasons I want to do the summit is to connect musicians, songwriters, artists, musical artists, to help find a community, help find ways to collaborate. And one of the reasons I wanted you part of this thing is I love and appreciate what you're doing to do a similar kinds of things. And as we all move more and more online, we'd like to be back in real time, in real space soon. But in the meantime, it's Zoom to phone to internet. So I love what you're doing. I love your perspective on how you connect people and your positive vibe of making a difference in the world. So we're going to do, before we talk about your free gift that we're offering for the summit, anything else that you wanted to say that we didn't get to before we wrap it up?
I think that people need to ask good questions. You should, in the same way that you poll your fans about what your best songs are, you should poll people you know about what your strengths and your weaknesses are, your carrots, your character, habits, your skills. Those things can be really eye-opening and instructive as you're shaping your life plan and your business plan. Asking good questions is really, really important. You should not hesitate to ask for help. This is a big hurdle for a lot of people who don't want to seem needy or in a subservient or subordinate position. Maybe they don't want to bother people, or they don't want to seem like they're too pushy. You do have to ask for help. You may not always get it, but I tell my people, I tell my coworkers and folks I know and my family and my friends, my neighbors, my members, I say, look, ask me for whatever you want. Be direct and specific. Don't beat around the bush. Tell me what it is, because if I can give it to you, I will. And if I can't, I won't. And I will tell you why. And maybe with some adjustment, I could give it to you. It's just like you said with the pitch sessions, when a buyer says, no, this doesn't work, and I ask them why, and you find out that if you would just remove the ukulele, it would work perfectly. Why wouldn't you go back and take out the ukulele track and then present it to them? It's become that much more licensable. So people need to ask for help, ask for what they want, be direct and specific, and learn skills, get themselves, acquire more skills, learn how to negotiate, learn persuasion. I just have been sharing books with one of my nephews who has discovered finally some of the things I'm telling him are actually true. And he's been putting it to the test, and he is just on fire now. And I'm just so happy to see it. I'm mentoring a young lady through the Fulfillment Fund. And, you know, I'm showing her that if she's clear on what she wants in life, she can get it. And it's sometimes it just comes as such a revelation. So, you know, my advice to people is to get yourself skills, to slow down, to ask good questions, to ask for help, ask for what you want, be direct and specific, take risks, and expand your comfort zone. If something makes you uncomfortable, that's because you've reached the edge of your comfort zone. That means there's an opportunity here for growth. Why don't you go out and a little further than you normally would and get a little bit uncomfortable, because that's an opportunity to push beyond the limit, the limit that you have imposed upon yourself, and to get a little further and go a little further. And this could be anything from pitching your music, because a lot of people are afraid of that. They're afraid of negative feedback, or asking someone to co-write, or asking someone for help to produce a track, or just going up to say hello to someone at a social event. A lot of people are painfully shy and have very difficult time just interacting or networking or getting to know people. I mean, I'm sort of just the opposite, but
sort of.
yeah, but you know, here's a fun fact, or, you know, maybe not fun, but interesting. I used to be painfully shy.
Really?
And then I recognized what a handicap that would be throughout my life if I didn't get over it. So I just sort of puzzled my way through it, and I thought, there's nothing to be that afraid of. I mean, everybody has the same sort of insecurity. So in that sense,
Well, when I've seen you at other events in LA, I would sometimes ask you, what about that person over there? And you'd say, I don't know, come on, I'll introduce you. Boom. You're like this fireball of like, let's just introduce you. I don't know the person, but we're going to meet them right now. So,
yeah,
so that's great. That's great.
There's
So
nothing to be afraid of. So go ahead.
That's beautiful. So let's just talk about the free gift you're offering for people to download today. Did we figure that out?
Why don't I offer the how to license music for Hollywood films, television, games, and trailers. We have a program that we can offer. I think it's normally $69.95, but we can make that audio recording available, and I'd be happy to give that to your group. If they ask for it, if they ask nicely.
That's great. That's great. That's great. I know a lot of people want to learn about that stuff. It seems to be a big source of revenue and a big source of people want more information about that.
So writing a book about it too. So
you're writing a book about it?
Yes.
Oh, beautiful. That's great. That's great. So folks, I hope you benefited from listening to Tess speak today. If you have questions, you can post them on the Facebook group. I don't know, Tess, are you on the Facebook?
I don't know, but I'm sure I will be.
Well, if we can schedule a time depending on our availability, we can maybe schedule a time to do a Facebook Live with you, and people can ask questions, and I'll get you in there and just let her know what you want to know, what you learned today, what did you benefit from, what are some inspirations, and
What would you like more of?
what would you like more of, as they say.
Mhm.
This is great, really great. So thank you, Tess. Really glad we could work it out today. Thank you, all you folks in the summit. We'll see you in the Facebook group and everywhere we can connect virtually until we can be in the same space. All right, Tess, thank you so much.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me.
Okay, you're welcome.